Welcome back, listeners, to a brand new episode, a Week 18 episode of the New Standard. And as always, I have my partner in crime, Lance Williams. I am him. And I have my partner in crime, Neal Coolong, as I fumbled that intro. But that's fine. There were a lot of fumbles.
Jalen Warren
In
did.
I got my Jalen Warren on as I started the game. And if you want to participate in the program, make sure you go to YouTube and do a search for the New Standard and Lance Williams and or Neal Coolong. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, you can search for the podcast with the New Standard, however you get yours, and do a search for the New Standard and Lance Williams and or Neal Coolong. And like and subscribe to the pod and to the YouTube show. I want to throw it to you, Neal. What's your thoughts on this game today?
It was you don't want to call it pretty, that's for sure. And I apologize for this. I just lost the update I think everybody is waiting for.
I'm guessing that would be possibly the update around.
Yes, let's just jump into that. In the Steelers 17-10 win over rival Baltimore, their 7th win over the Ravens in their last 8 meetings, closing off the regular season at a 10-7 mark. The Steelers in the late in the third quarter lost all-pro outside linebacker TJ Watt to what looked like a left knee injury. Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk is reporting if Watt has a grade 3 MCL sprain, which is a complete tear or close to it, it'd be hard to imagine him playing next week. The early word coming out is that he is not thought to have a torn ACL. In fact, if you did see it, Watt was screaming to get back into the game late. Here's what happens. They'll look at him in the blue tent and do just kind of a quick like a direct evaluation. If the player leaves from the blue tent and goes into the locker room, what they're doing is going for an X-ray. And when you get an X-ray, they'll be able to see with some definitive confirmation of whether it's a ligament tear or not. Because the word is that it's an MCL tear, that is something that a player can recover from a little bit faster because it's not surgical in most cases. You can put the surgery off. An ACL tear, you need to get a surgery right away. The severity of it is such that they need to repair it really when the swelling goes down. But that is why it's a season-ending injury. It's not because he's immobile because that ligament is torn. It's more of the fact that they need the surgery to be able to do it. So
let me read something real quick, Neal. Let me read something real quick, and I'll throw it back to you. And I'm reading this off of the website of the Cleveland Clinic, and it defines a grade 3 MCL tear as a severe tear in which your MCL is completely torn. Both the superficial and deep parts of your knee will likely be very unstable and loose, and you'll probably experience intense pain and tenderness. It's common for someone to have other knee injuries, especially damage to their ACL, if they have a grade 3 MCL tear. That's just a brief synopsis of it off that website. Go ahead, Neal.
Now, the long-term prognosis or the next week prognosis is probably not very good. TJ Watt is at the very least going to say publicly up and down that he wants to play. Can't blame him for that. I wouldn't think that he would be available next week, but we don't know if there will be a next week because the Steelers have not yet clinched a playoff spot. Now, they improved their chances tremendously with this win against a Ravens team that had already clinched the top seed in the AFC and rested a lot of their players, but not all of them. I would like to point that out. And I would like to point out it's not as if the Steelers have all of their guys from who they started the season with either. So it was really kind of a mash unit, almost a half of a preseason game out there for both teams tonight. But a big Steelers win, and that certainly helps their chances to grab a wild card spot, depending on the outcome of tomorrow's games. And tomorrow, what you were looking at is the 1 p.m. kick. So in the early games, the one to watch is Jacksonville at Tennessee. The Steelers need a Titans win in this game to clinch. It's not the only scenario, but that's the first one to watch. Lance and I will go on immediately following that game. If the Steelers do clinch a playoff spot, which would be a Titans win over the Jaguars. And the Jaguars, who defeated the Steelers earlier this year, are 3-point favorites against the floundering Titans, who might be probably are, I would guess, going to play their last game with head coach Mike Vrabel. Not a real good bet, in my opinion, but not impossible. Not a stretch. If that does not go the Steelers' way, however, they have another shot at it. They've got a Dolphins win over the Bills in Miami, right? That's in Miami.
Correct.
Sunday night would clinch a playoff spot and eliminate Buffalo. The Bills are 2.5-point favorites against a Dolphins team that lost seemingly most of their players over the last 4 weeks or so of the season. We don't know how they'll respond to that. Miami has played Buffalo more than well in recent years. So I don't know. You get a toss-up either way. I don't think I would straight up pick both of those teams. I don't know if I'd pick either of them, to be honest with you. It's a pretty tough scenario for the Steelers, but at the very least, the Steelers are they finished their regular season playing the best football they have played overall this year, 3 games in a row. I felt that was the case, Lance. I'm not sure if you would agree with that. They ran the ball well in terrible conditions tonight. That's a really hard environment to play in. And it's not that Tyler Huntley, the Ravens quarterback, is as terrible as his stats suggest. It's just that's how hard it was to throw the ball. Mason Rudolph, though, stepped up and made the one big throw in this game, a 71-yard touchdown pass to Deontay Johnson. Johnson's 5th touchdown in 10 games since going 22 straight games without a touchdown. He's a quasi touchdown machine now, and that was his biggest play in quite a long time.
So let me review this to what Neal said. Here are the full breakdowns of the scenarios. Steelers win and Buffalo lose. Steelers win and Jacksonville lose or tie. Steelers win and Indianapolis, Houston ends in a tie. That's going to happen. That's going to happen today.
That game is on right now.
That game.
No, it's funny though. Remember, you and I remember talking after the show in 2019, same situation. They needed the Steelers actually had all but clinched a playoff spot. We acted as if they clinched it. In fact, we were joking on the show. It's not as if the Chargers and Raiders are going to tie tonight or anything like that. I had to stay up and watch that entire game, and it came down to like a 50-yard field goal at the end of overtime. They damn near tied that game. It couldn't have come any closer than that. And the whole time I'm thinking like, oh man, we're going to get savaged. We got this entire show making fun of the idea of this tie. So I'm not going to rule out a tie. I will say, obviously, ties are very unlikely. We don't expect that to happen. If it does, though, it's a good thing for the Steelers. They would advance to the playoffs right now if Houston and who are they playing?
And the Colts. Indy.
The Colts. 2 teams who beat the Steelers this year tie tonight in primetime.
Now, ESPN is doing a live odds website scenario where the analytics team live calculates the playoff chances, and it combines in current win probabilities with ESPN's FPI Football Power Index, and they give each team's postseason a likelihood through the Week 18 slate. The projected final standings update regularly, and on their website right now in real time, the Steelers have a 69.8% chance to make the playoffs. Now, of course, we have not gotten deep into the Texans-Colts game, but at the moment, the odds are swaying in the Steelers' favor to possibly get the 7th seed. Let's peel back this game a little bit, and let's jump into this comment from Anthony Picano. Mason is the quarterback for this team. Deal with it. Let me jump into a couple of stats from Mason today. 18 of 20 for 152, a touchdown pass, and 115 rating. And his 115 rating gives him 3 consecutive weeks of a rating over 110, which hasn't happened for the Steelers probably in the last 5 seasons, including with Ben Roethlisberger. Given the circumstances and the elements in which he played in this game, one, do you think this was Rudolph's best game as a starter? And as Anthony Picano would say, and asks the question or makes a statement, is Mason the quarterback for this team moving forward?
Both answers to me are quick and emphatic no's, and there are a variety of reasons for both of those things. This was a tough game for Rudolph. I appreciate the workmanlike manner he went into this one. You watch the game. It was damn near impossible to throw the ball. He delivered it pretty well. He put passes on the money when they needed to. That Johnson throw was tough. He had to sit back and sling that. And it was the one spot he needed to put it, not just for it to be a completion, but for it to be a big play. Easily the top throw of the game, easily the play of the game. Good on him for that. He played better the last 2 weeks, although I think fairly you throw this one out. Just the weather was a disaster. It's not a passing game environment tonight. A good game by him, certainly. I look at Hundley's performance in comparison to Rudolph's. You clearly see which one was better, and you clearly see which team won the game. I don't think that's a coincidence. Is he their quarterback? If they play next week, I would imagine Rudolph will start. I don't think
he is going to start. Absolutely.
And I am sure Tomlin has spoken to that by now. I haven't seen the flurry of tweets from everybody saying that he did. If Tomlin's going to back away from it and say we're going to evaluate and blah blah blah, look, he just won 3 in a row. This is without question the best 3-game stretch we have seen at the quarterback position in a very long time in Pittsburgh. I don't think there's any way in the world you could not start him. Long term, though, it's a different story. You have a real tough situation. I've talked about this a couple times. I can't stress this enough, though. Mason Rudolph is a free agent. For as well as you are saying that he's playing, and you're right, every other team in the league is looking at this right now. They know, okay, you're not going to get him for the $10 million a year that you just extended Trubisky for. You're not going to get him for the $8 million that Trubisky signed for initially with the Steelers. He's up $15-16 million. This team did not build itself around the idea that they were going to need to pay a starter money to a veteran quarterback in 2024. They don't have the resources really to be able to do that. I mean, they could. It's just it dampens the rest of your team's ability to grow if you do that. Rudolph has played exceptionally well over these 3 games. It's remarkable how much he's improved, and he demonstrated that again tonight. He wasn't going to get the stats, but he made the plays when he had to make the plays. Fumbled, you don't want to see that, but a lot of people put the ball on the ground. Mason Rudolph is going to have a market for his services, and the Steelers drafted a first-round quarterback 2 years ago who lost his job to injury. They're not going to take Kenny Pickett out of that situation long-term. Next week, I think they do, but long-term, Pickett's going to be their guy for financial reasons above anything else. I don't want to say that Rudolph is going to, turn back into a pumpkin like we've been talking about, but I will continue to say right now he's Cinderella man. I don't know how long that's going to last, but I do know if and when he hits free agency, somebody's going to pay him at that level, and it's not going to be the Steelers.
I want to jump into this comment from Corey Hatcher because I think you make solid points. However, I will say this. To Corey's point, if you roll Pickett out there, and of course we're talking about the future, whatever that is, that might be next season, the next 2 seasons, long term, however we're defining that. And I would guess that would be next season, the next couple of seasons, his rookie contract. If they make the playoffs and Mason Rudolph plays well, now those are 2 ifs. I'm not even going to throw in the scenario if they make the playoffs and if they win a playoff game, because that's even more scenarios. I don't know how you can go back to Pickett, given any situation, given his pedigree, his pay, because his performance over his 2 years in playing would have nowhere near matched Mason Rudolph. And I don't know how you sell that to your locker room moving forward, especially if they make the playoffs and Rudolph plays well. I don't know how you can sell that in your locker room moving forward that Rudolph doesn't give you the best opportunity to win.
If you in a front office or general manager position, if it is your job to deal with this, and Omar Khan, if he spoke of it, he's going to say how great of a problem it is. He's going to push the positive accolades of both players. He's going to make it out to be like they're winning with whatever decision they make. The reality is his undercarriage is in a vice because
Absolutely.
he cannot get that wrong. And you're betting basically your career on either Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph. Yeah, that's tough.
That ain't a good place to be.
No, it's not, because I agree with you, Lance. I don't think there's a way in the world. If he let's just say, and Steelers aren't even in the playoffs right now, but let's just say, because we're all in a good mood, we may as well take a look at this while it's fun and exciting, because the team, if they don't make the playoffs, the team is going to get tremendously worse after they played the game tonight. So let's just ride this momentum while we have it. If they make the playoffs, Rudolph starts and he wins. I don't. How many starting quarterbacks get benched after winning a playoff game? You know, especially when he came in basically off the streets. I mean, he hadn't done anything in years. For him to put up what he did, it solidifies your offensive coordinator, because Eddie Faulkner goes in and says, you know, that number we discussed, it's going to go up a few bucks now. Okay. I've got the guy here. I'm making him play well. You got no coordinator you've had has made a quarterback play this well in a long time. Okay. You changed my job in the middle of the season, and look what I'm doing. You're going to pay me more to do this full time. Rudolph should be my quarterback, because that's honestly what Faulkner should be saying. I don't know why he would want to hook his plow to Kenny Pickett right now.
Let me ask you this. You say Faulkner. By chance, is it Sullivan?
No, because if it should have been Sullivan, they would have made Sullivan the interim OC.
Okay.
Calling plays is not the same thing as coordinating the offense. Right. Okay. The calling plays piece, in fairness to Faulkner, that's not something that, even just the nuances of it, what you have to do, how it's going to work, everything like that, that's probably not something you want to trust to somebody who's never done that before on the fly. That doesn't mean you can't prepare him for it in the offseason when he has that expectation. Telling him on Tuesday, you're going to call plays this weekend and you've never done that, probably isn't fair. So to be honest, Sullivan was the better choice for that. But I think tonight wasn't my favorite, the way that Sullivan set stuff up. They were on target right away. They did a great job on their script for a third game in a row. But the plan wasn't what I hoped that it would have been. I wonder if they had not anticipated the monsoon that they had to play in. But Sullivan has done an admirable job as well. I don't think that he's going to lose his job. He's still working with Rudolph. Keep that in mind. Overall, I another show. We'll get into it another time. I don't know how Faulkner would lose his job right now. I don't think there's a way in the world to not hire him. I don't know how you couldn't hire him.
I'm wondering if there's any way to sell it to both, to bring both back in their current roles. You can get them both back.
I can't say that that's impossible. I don't think Faulkner would want that.
No, I don't think so either.
I think that's just weird.
To your point,
it's unprecedented. I don't think they've even done it before. I can't even really say why they wouldn't, outside of, you're paying me to be the coordinator. I need to call the plays. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm drawing them up for this reason. In season, it makes sense. If you have the offseason to prepare, you want to hire the offensive coordinator, you need to let me do this. That's part of the standard coordinator role I want to have that responsibility. Plus, what you'd be doing is paying 2 coaches, because it's not like Sullivan is going to say, you want me to coach the most important position on the field and call the plays? And you think I'm going to do that for anything less than the highest paid quarterbacks coach in the game? No, not a chance. Steelers don't like to pay money outside of the fact that their head coach is one of the highest paid coaches in the game. That's where they put the money. They don't put it into the assistant coaches because they pay their head coach a huge amount of money. And while we saw a brutal 3-game stretch, we can't ignore the fact that we just saw a 3-game stretch that was really good. And that, Tomlin is able to put that together consistently when his back is up against the wall. So it's hard to say he's not going to get an extension with some more money on it now. And that's more money that's not going to go to the assistant coaches.
Hey, thank you, Corey, for popping in and chiming in with that. They can exercise Najee's 5th year. And I think what we've seen, and not to oversimplify, or I'm just going to say I'm going to oversimplify it, what you've seen out of the Steeler offense since Faulkner has become the coordinator, in my opinion, is you saw a rededication to the running game as the foundation, that Najee Harris would be the foundation back, and that Warren would be that change of pace back, the juice. He would provide the juice that Najee didn't. So you had a refocus on the running game. Under center,
the passing game with Warren as well, as opposed to Najee.
Yes, in the passing game as well. So what they did was he complemented some of the skills that Najee was deficient in, namely, like you said, catching the ball out the backfield and that juice. Although Najee has had, I think, 8+ runs of 20 yards, which is like 3rd in the National Football League. However, with that being said, or I should say also in addition to that, the offense reestablished the running game, under center play action, and deep shots. That's what you kind of saw this offense get back to. And it worked well. And to your point, like you said on the last show, I don't know how you cannot hire Faulkner back unless you absolutely get the best offensive coordinator on the market, who's probably whoever that would take a head coaching job.
He's not taking that job.
Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting moving forward, because they have some critical decisions. I think one of the most critical decisions, they got to bring Jalen back, or they've got to bring back another back similar to him to complement Najee. And like Corey said, they ran a lot of split zone action today. And like to Mike Tomlin, let's get to Tomlin again. 10-7. I think you called it perfectly. I think I called 11-6. So kudos to you. 7. You said 10-7. I think I said 11-6. Before I get into my point about Tomlin, big up, Neal. You see how we're coordinated, listeners? And again, you're listening to the new standard.
This year.
We're coordinated. I'm going with the gold, the city of champions, Pittsburgh, 1975, the Steel City hoodie. We're just complimenting each other.
This was a Christmas present, and I defied tradition. I had been wearing the same sweatshirt during games the last 3 weeks during the winning streak. After I changed it out, it kept losing. I went back and forth, but the other one's just an absolute disaster. I spilled stuff all over it. So I had put this one on because I had to go out and do stuff, and I just didn't take it off. So fortunately, this one's now 1-0. So we're happy with that.
Yes, and I love this one. And I'm giving a little bit of shout out to the store in Pittsburgh. I got this on Walnut Street at the Steel City shop, the City of Champions 1975 hoodie. And I believe, I don't know why they called it the City of Champions, because the Pirates definitely didn't win it in 1975. I think just the Steelers won it in 75. But, hey, I was living in Pittsburgh at that time. I was a little tight, 5 years old, running around with my Steeler helmet on and a Road Runner whatever thing. I used to ride down the hall at my grandmother's house and play like I was Mean Joe Green. But the Steelers and Mike Tomlin again, man, as much as I want to get past Tomlin, Tomlin, he's that mushroom in the rain, man. Like when
He
those
does this
rain,
shit to us every year. Every year, Lance, we do this. We
he
always end up with
just,
you, son of a bitch. We can't fire you. Can't fire you.
I mean,
God damn
I
it!
mean,
Change stuff.
I
Get
mean,
better.
honestly, I
You
mean,
were better than
honestly,
you just should have beat Baltimore to win the division tonight. It should have happened.
and honestly, man, I'm looking at this and saying, look, as much as I don't have faith in the fact that Tomlin can build a staff to build an offense to effectively communicate for a world champion. To Marcus J's point, he needs good coordination on the offensive side of the ball. I just, it just, I mean, we're in the same place, Neil, as we were last year. He got 10 wins out of this team, and you could argue, I mean, they should have probably won 12 games this year.
12
And
is
I
where
think,
they should have been. They had plenty of opportunity to win 13.
and
Plenty of opportunity
I
to win
mean,
13.
I don't know
You
if
didn't even have the
that's,
damn quarterback right.
and I don't know if that's to his brilliance or the fact that you have over 20 teams in the National Football League with 7 or more losses. I don't know what it is. I just know that there's no way in the world they're moving on from Tomlin. Tomlin is going to get an extension. And I just feel like we're going to be in the same place next year talking about the same shit that they're 10-7. And
If they're 10-7, who's to say they're not 9-8? You
they're
know,
not 9-8. I just
why would we think otherwise? This is just
like
oh man.
Corey is saying, this is a script. This is like part 5 of the NFL script. Tomlin gets his 9+ wins, and the Steelers compete for the 7th seed. I mean, and I'm not saying that's bad. And
the Steelers' history in the 17-game season of the NFL, that's what it is. Okay,
yes,
that's what they're doing. This isn't even we've only been doing this show for what, 3 seasons? This is the 3rd time we've sat after their game wondering if they were going to be in the playoffs or not. You know, they win and they don't get in week 18. They're always fighting for that last wild card spot. And it's great that you're doing that. It's just, are you rising up to that or are you shrinking down to it? That's the question.
That's a great point. And I had a conversation with my brother who's a Patriot fan, big Pats fan, big up to him. And we were talking about and Anthony Picano is right. Tomlin is the Steelers' Groundhog Day. What is success? And we'll talk about that probably maybe tomorrow, however it shakes out, because we're going to be giving you a show anyway, regardless of how it shakes out. Is that I'm having a difficulty defining what is a successful season for me. I'm having a lot of difficulty. And James, don't ever call Mike Tomlin Wayne Fonts.
Wayne Fonts.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's a pull. If we had any money, we had a producer and we could put stuff up right now, I'm dying to put a shot of Wayne Fonts on the screen.
A shot of Wayne Fonts. That's a great call on the Wayne Fonts.
In a league that came up with organized crime and people of a certain persuasion, Wayne Fonts looked the most like a mobster than any coach who's ever lived in the NFL. It's absolutely hysterical. It's a pretty good analogy. Wayne Fonts was kind of like that. They were kind of your quintessential 8-8, 9-7 team there. He was 67 and 71 in his career. He's from Boston. Go figure.
Wayne Fonts. I think Wayne Fonts was Puerto Rican, Boricua, if I'm not mistaken.
Italian, isn't he?
Oh, he was Italian? Well,
I thought. Okay, let me look it up. Honestly, I thought he was Italian.
I thought.
Now we'll have to edit out my mob joke.
I could be getting that wrong. I thought Wayne was Puerto Rican. I found some shots of Wayne. I would try to pull that up and put Wayne on the background, but I'm not as crafty with my skills.
Why is it, Lance, every time we bring up a coach from the past, we get a story like this? In the fall of 1987, Fonts pleaded guilty to driving while intoxicated after an incident in which He was originally also charged with possession of cocaine. The more serious charge was dropped, however.
Because he's a Detroit coach.
He got hired after this. Can you imagine any of this happening today? He was the Lions defensive coordinator that year. They promoted him.
And they promoted him. Well, the Lions have a track record of having butt naked coaches in drive-thrus.
It's always the Lions.
It's always the Lions. And I don't know if you guys can see the top of his head. You can see us, but I don't know if you can see the top of his head in the background. Wayne Fonts. And I guess there's a legitimately
is Mike Tomlin.
Mike won more than Wayne Fonts, though.
Well, yes, but look at this stretch though. 91, they're 12-4, lost in the NFC Championship game. Next year, 5-11 somehow. So skip that. But next 3 years, 10-6, 9-7, 10-6, won the division once, made the playoffs all 3 times, lost in the first round.
Yeah,
I mean that's pretty close.
Yeah, and listeners, before we get off the program, I want to give you a live update as we're watching the ESPN Live playoff picture update. The Steelers' playoff chances have risen in the last 2 minutes to 71.6.
71. I don't know how that would have changed.
Maybe 71.6.
Is that because Houston and Indianapolis did not score in a 5-minute period? Therefore, their odds of tying the game just increased a little bit. Not a math major. I don't know, but it was 68 after the game. How did it go up to 71? Did they forget to carry the 9?
Yeah, you're probably absolutely right, because they've played some of the game, I guess, and it's closer to a tie. So
it's got to be that, but that's just stupid. Then if you're doing that, don't put up live odds. It doesn't make any sense.
And so right now the Colts are a 51.3% chance to Houston's 48.6.
Okay, so they're pretty close. But what are the odds of a tie then? I can't.
They didn't put the odds of a tie on there. So I'm guessing, who would the Steelers play if they made it? As they played a 2 seed.
My guess would be they'd play the 2, and that is if Miami wins, I think they're the 2 seed.
Yeah.
So they have a reason to play this game. And Miami, I'm gonna be honest with you, that's a really okay. Let's be honest. We're putting layer upon layer of thing here. The real issue, bottom line, is if TJ Watt can't play, I don't know what they're going to do, because Marcus Golden is not going to replace TJ Watt.
No. Let me just say this,
obviously, and that they're not built to not have TJ Watt for their biggest game.
Before we get out of here, Neal, tomorrow, 5:16 p.m.
Wait, they're just kicking off now. The game hasn't even started yet.
I don't know. I'm just reading the numbers.
Did Wayne Fonts get pulled over for cocaine possession again?
Art Schleister is starting for the Colts. At this time, at 5:16 p.m., or let's just say it, are Steelers make it to the playoffs? Neil Stradamus, look into your crystal ball. Steelers getting in?
God, I hate picking games. I'm not following either team very closely. Honestly, I'd say no where I sit right now. It's not, obviously, it doesn't have anything to do with the Steelers. Tennessee has played like walking dog bleep for the last month. I don't see how they're going to rally and rebound when Jacksonville needs to win the game. Nobody is showing up in Nashville to watch that game. If they are, they're Jaguars fans. Jacksonville just has a better advantage. And from there, I don't think Miami has the time to replace their 2 starting edge rushers in a week and beat a team like Buffalo. I don't think they're able to do that. Buffalo has gotten a lot better ever since whatever the hell Sean McDermott was trying to tell people about 9/11. They're a better team that galvanized them somehow. Crazy fuckers. It's Buffalo's a good team. Miami just doesn't. It's a bad matchup for the Steelers. You know, these aren't the teams that you wanted to have to rely on. But you know, this is why you need to beat New England. This is why you need to beat Arizona.
You beat one of them, and we're not talking. I'm going to say they're going to make the playoffs. And for no other reason than Tyreek Hill, and prayers out to Tyreek Hill, his family, house burnt down, or part of his house burnt down based on, I think it was a lighter. A kid might have started a lighter or something. Something happened in his house, and part of his house burnt down. So prayers out to him. Tyreek Hill goes supernatural and gets pissed off and has 215 yards. And after they got their butt whooped by the Baltimore Ravens, they come back. I just watched Hard Knocks. They're fired up, and they get it done.
Isn't Hill hurt too, though? He
I
had a
don't know if
walking
he's
boot on when he was surveying the scene of his house burning down. It was nice for the local media to film
That
all
was
of that.
just he just had special herbs. He had herbs and seasoning.
Is that what he used the lighter for?
Yeah, he had herbs.
That's what the lighter was there for.
in the boot, and so he's going to be fine. The Steelers are going to make the playoffs and get blown out in the first round, like they did against Kansas City a couple of years ago. And everybody in Steeler Nation will
beat Miami. They match up with Miami. They really do. And Miami's defense is going to be banged to nothing. You know,
and
if they can't put pressure on Rudolph against the rest of that defense, Howard's hurt. They're not going to be favored. They'll probably be 5, maybe 6-point underdogs. But I like the Steelers better against Miami probably than against any other team in the playoff field.
So
as crazy as that is.
So I guess if Buffalo wins, they're the 2 seed. So
if Buffalo wins, the Steelers wouldn't have that spot anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So, but with that, listeners, we're going to go ahead and conclude the show.
Just really quick, sorry, Jerry Dulac Jerry Dulac is reporting TJ Watt will have an MRI tomorrow in Pittsburgh to determine the extent of his injury. It cannot properly be evaluated until then. So what that means is they know something. They're not exactly sure, but they're not saying anything until they get the MRI back. That's very much par for the course. They did the same thing with Kenny Pickett and every other player that got hurt. We thought Pickett was probably out for the year. Actually, it turns out that Pickett was out for the year. He got hurt and didn't play again.
Yes.
I walked myself into that.
And big up to Corey. Damn it, Lance. Stop. Change your mind. That's hilarious. So let me change my mind then. The Steelers will be eliminated. So that means they'll go to the playoffs. I have the power.
I'm glad I couldn't convince you.
So
Corey just cites reverse jinx theory. And
yes. And happy New Year to everybody. If I didn't wish you a happy New Year. Happy New Year, Mel. Happy New Year, James. Happy New Year, everybody. If you want to hit us with a super chat to start the year off, please do. Maybe we can pay for a Christmas card or a holiday card to give to TJ. No, just give us a super chat if you will. But with that, we're going to conclude the program. Steelers finish up the year 10-7. We will wait and see if they make it to the dance. If a girl will ask them out on the dance floor, we will be waiting. But with that, we're going to conclude the program. And as always, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.
Go Titans, go Dolphins.
Baby. Go Titans, go Dolphins.